Ready to explore some hidden histories. Let's dive into Lima, Peru. This South American metropolis, but it's built on a desert. Who knew?
And with Lima's anniversary coming up, it's the perfect time to dig a little deeper.
We're going beyond those typical tourist spots to uncover the stories that make Lima truly unique.
It's fascinating, actually. Lima's location, you wouldn't think it was up for debate. But there was this other city, Jausha, further inland, and it was seriously considered as a potential capital.
Really? So why Lima? What made it win out in the end?
Well, think about it. Choosing a capital, especially back in colonial times, it was all about strategy, resources, trade routes, defensibility.
Right. Location, location, location.
Exactly. And in South America, securing a spot on the coast, it was crucial for those European powers. Control the coast, control the trade coming in and out of the region.
It's like the ultimate strategic chess move. But back to Lima, why the name City of Kings?
Well, it's more than just a fancy title.
It wasn't just because it was founded around the Epiphany, was it?
It was a power play, plain and simple. Spain, during their expansion, they used this name in several colonies. It was a way to project their authority and, let's be honest, intimidate any rivals. Imagine conquering a new land and proclaiming yourself king.
Talk about making an entrance.
Exactly. It was all about sending a message.
And speaking of sending a message, what about Lima's coat of arms? It's like this intricate puzzle of symbols.
It's a visual representation of power, basically.
Yeah.
You've got the three kings, the Star of Bethlehem, even eagles to represent the Spanish monarchs.
It's incredible how much history they packed into one emblem. And here's a detail from our research. There's this interlaced K and J representing King Charles and Queen Joanna. Talk about a personal touch. Was that common back then?
It's not something you see every day, that's for sure. Putting your initials on a symbol of the state, it really highlights how different things were back then. This was about as personal as it got, a constant reminder to everyone. This land, it's under our rule.
It's a powerful reminder of how much things have changed, that's for sure. But let's shift gears a bit. Lima is built on a desert, right?
That's right.
So how on earth did this city not just survive, but actually thrive in such an arid environment?
Well, that's where the ingenuity of Lima's pre-Hispanic inhabitants comes in. They created this incredible system of canals, channeling water from the Rimac River, turning a desert into a thriving urban center.
So these canals, they weren't just practical, were they? They actually shaped the entire layout of the city.
Absolutely. Some neighborhoods are even named after them.
Wow, I never knew that.
It's a reminder that even today's cities, they're built on the foundations laid by those who came before.
And speaking of those who came before, let's talk about Pizarro. This conquistador who founded Lima, he seemed to have a knack for building.
He did, but it's important to remember, Pizarro didn't exactly start from scratch. Our research indicates that he repurposed many existing structures. Well, imagine this. The main square of Lima, a place so central to the city today, it might have been built on the ruins of an ancient palace and a temple dedicated to the Puma deity.
Wow. Hold on, so they just built right on top of existing structures. Was that common practice for conquistadors?
It was a tactic, really,
Yeah.
a way to assert their dominance. By repurposing these sacred sites and palaces, they were trying to erase the symbols of previous civilizations and establish their own.
It's almost like rewriting history, literally paving over it with their own designs. What's fascinating is that there's still debate about whether those structures were in that exact spot. Remember that excavation back in 2006? They found something, but they couldn't confirm all the details.
It's like an unsolved mystery right in the heart of the city.
It makes you wonder what other secrets are still hidden beneath the streets of Lima. So from one hidden history to another, did you know that Lima built this huge defensive wall back in the 1680s?
Yeah, it's a fascinating story, really. Talk about going to extremes. Imagine being so afraid that you build a massive wall around your entire city.
What were they so afraid of? Was there a specific threat?
Pirates. They were a constant worry for coastal cities back then. And Lima, with its riches and resources, they were a prime target.
Right, makes sense. But here's the thing. They built this massive wall, and it was never even used.
Not a single battle, can you believe it? All that work for nothing.
So what happened to it? Did they just tear it all down?
Well, as Lima grew, they needed space.
Yeah.
So, ironically, progress was the wall's undoing. Most of it was demolished to make way for new buildings and streets.
It's kind of sad, in a way, this monument to fear just disappearing like that. But at least they saved a part of it, right?
Yeah, there's one bastion still standing, a reminder of that era.
From walls to wardrobes now, our deep dive into Lima wouldn't be complete without talking about the tapada limeña.
Ah, yes, the tapada. It's amazing how clothing can become such a powerful symbol.
It's described as this intriguing mix of modesty and allure, with even a touch of mystery. Like you could hide secret messages under those folds.
Well, it was a time of immense political change. Revolutions, shifting power dynamics. The tapata, whether intentional or not, gave women a certain degree of anonymity. And that privacy, well, it could be used for all sorts of things.
It makes you wonder how many other fashion trends throughout history had these hidden meanings or purposes beyond just aesthetics. But practicality played a role too, right? Especially in Lima's climate.
Absolutely. Lima's weather, it's not exactly what you'd call typical. It's temperate, often misty. The tapata would have been perfect for those conditions.
It sounds like the tapata really embodies that blend of style and function perfectly suited for Lima.
You could say that. It's uniquely Lima in many ways.
And speaking of uniquely Lima, we have to talk about those balconies.
Ah, yes. Those balconies. They're as distinctive as the tapata, wouldn't you say? They're often compared to Spanish styles, but UNESCO considers them in a category of their own.
What makes them so special? What sets them apart?
It's all in the details. Intricate woodwork, ornate carvings, that elaborate lattice work. And they're often more enclosed than those Spanish counterparts, offering more privacy.
It's interesting, isn't it, how both the tapata and these balconies speak to this desire for privacy in Lima.
You've got a point. Maybe it's a cultural thing, this preference for personal space and discretion. Or maybe it's just the practicality of living in such a dense urban environment.
And let's not forget the simple pleasure of relaxing on one of those balconies, a cup of Peruvian coffee in hand, watching the city go by below.
Now that you mention it, we haven't even talked about Lima's climate. It's not your typical beach city weather, that's for sure.
Right, you've got the humidity, the temperate weather, and of course the garua.
That's right, the garua. That persistent mist that seems to embrace the city. It creates this unique ambiance, almost melancholic, wouldn't you say?
It's like they say about London and its fog, right? It seeps into everything, the art, the literature, there's a certain moodiness to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In a way, Lima's history is just as unpredictable as its climate. We've got earthquakes, El Nino.
It's incredible to think how these forces of nature have shaped not just the physical city, but its culture and its people as well. It's remarkable, isn't it, how these events, these forces of nature, become woven into the fabric of a city's story.
Absolutely. It's a testament to human resilience, wouldn't you say? That we find ways to adapt, to rebuild, to even find meaning and hope in the face of such events.
Right. And sometimes that resilience is expressed through faith, like with the Señor de los Milagros, the Lord of Miracles.
Ah, yes. That devotion, it's a powerful example of how deeply intertwined faith and lived experience can be, especially after a traumatic event like that earthquake.
It's a reminder that these events, they shape not just the physical landscape, but also the beliefs and practices of a community.
It makes you think about all the different ways that humans have tried to understand and cope with the unpredictable nature of, well, nature.
Exactly. And speaking of unpredictable, that Chilean occupation of Lima from 1881 to 1883, that was a pivotal moment too. It's not something you hear a lot about, but it had a lasting impact.
It's one of those historical footnotes that often gets overlooked. But for Lima, it was 3 years of immense change and upheaval.
Our research really highlighted the human side of that period, the resilience of the people, especially the women. They really stepped up to rebuild families and communities after the war.
That's so often the case, isn't it? In times of hardship, it's the women who lead the way in rebuilding and healing.
It's a side of history we don't always get to hear, and it's important to remember. But let's not dwell on the hardships of the past. Lima today is a vibrant, thriving city. It's constantly evolving, finding new ways to express its identity.
Right.
And one of the most exciting developments is the Costa Verde project. It's literally reshaping the city's relationship with the sea.
It's incredible to think about transforming a neglected coastline into this vibrant public space. It takes a certain kind of vision to imagine that, let alone make it a reality. It's a reminder that cities are never static. They're constantly evolving, adapting to new challenges and opportunities.
And speaking of challenges, we've talked about earthquakes and El Nino, but let's not forget that Lima is located in one of the most seismically active regions in the world.
That's right. Living with the constant threat of earthquakes, it's woven into the fabric of life in Lima.
It must have shaped so much about the city, from its architecture to its culture.
Absolutely. You can see it in the prevalence of adobe as a building material, for example. It's incredibly resilient to earthquakes, able to absorb those shocks and tremors.
It's a testament to the ingenuity and resilience of those early builders who learned to work with rather than against the forces of nature.
Precisely. And it's not just the physical structures, it's a mentality, a way of life.
That's what's so inspiring about Lima, isn't it? Throughout its history, it's faced so many challenges, natural disasters, political upheaval, you name it. But each time, it's found a way to not only survive, but to thrive.
It's a testament to the people of Lima, their enduring spirit, their creativity, their deep connection to this unique and fascinating city.
Well said. I think that's a perfect note to end our deep dive on. We've covered so much ground today, from ancient canals and defensive walls to fashion trends and iconic balconies.
We've explored Lima's unique geography and climate, delved into its history of resilience and adaptation, and even touched on the enduring power of faith and human connection.
It's been quite a journey, and I hope it's inspired our listeners to explore Lima further, to uncover their own hidden histories and discover the magic of this incredible city.
Absolutely. There's always more to learn, more to explore.
Until next time, happy travels, everyone.